Hey everyone, Liz Miller here, back for another CRCX Convos. You know how much I love to do these. You know how much I love talking to executives. You know how much I love talking to people who have distinct opinions about this fun, wacky world we call customer experience. But today I got a special convo for you guys. So thank you for joining, because today we're going to talk about, we're here to talk about digital asset management. I was joking, Shelly, I was joking the other day online that when Constellation does our short lists, like it's literally like what they say they are, right? Like the short lists of things you can start looking at when you're looking at technology. I have like 40 of them or some ridiculous number of short lists that I do here at Constellation. And I know that you're not supposed to say you have a favorite child. But my short
But you
list
have a favorite child.
It might be my favorite child. It might be my favorite child, Shelly. I can't lie. Because why? Because damn. It's fun to say. It's fun to say, but here's where I want to start with talking to you. First of all, you got to tell our viewers the who you are and what you do and who you do it for. But I want to hear your thoughts on something. I have always been a firm believer as a marketer that there are certain things that offer that last mile to get my job done, right? It's kind of like finishing off a dish with a little bit of olive oil, right? It gets you just that last piece. For me, DAM has always been that last mile of experience delivery. It's that last gate that I can rely on to get to my goal of durable, profitable relationship with my customer that's personalized, that's contextualized, but it's for my brand. So as a marketer, that's always been how I've positioned DAM. Am I wrong?
No, that's absolutely right. First off, I'm Shelly Chiang, and I am in product for Adobe AM Assets. And going back to that last mile, it's actually the most important mile, right?
Yes!
The one that gets you to the finish line. Right? When you're in a marathon
100%.
and you're jogging and it's at the very end, and that's where you either win your trophy or whatever, right?
Yes.
It is so important. And it's also like to take action on your content.
Yes. Right? I love that you use the marathon example, because I think that marketers, when we think about our marathons, it's like we think about them as if like we're in the New York Marathon, we're in the LA Marathon, but in reality, marketers are on this like never-ending marathon that we're actually trying to make feel like a sprint. And for me, when I think about digital asset management, that's the flywheel that helps me feel like I'm on a sprint, because it learns from everything that I've done on the marathon.
Exactly.
Right? And so it helps me get into that where I'm like, I'm not having to relearn how to run every time I sign up for a marathon.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So why do people treat it? Oh God, I'm going to say something bad. God, okay, we're amongst friends. I can say it. Okay, so why do people treat it like it's fancy storage?
Well, I think there's a couple things in hand when I'm thinking about the problem with DAM. And it's one thing is it's the adoption of it, right? So I think a lot of the teams they spend big on DAM, but it's not really like when they're treating it as a fancy storage, it's not really a strategic tool. And then you're not using the DAM as its full potential, right? So I think that's where that sort of aspect of using it as a fancy sort of repository was sort of
like a file storage system.
Yeah,
like it's almost
exactly.
like people are still thinking about it like enterprise content management, of like, I've got all this stuff and I need to organize it so that I can maximize people searching for it. But I think those were like early DAM conversations, but it's not where DAM is today.
No, it isn't. And with a DAM today, this is where AI kind of comes in, right? So it's not just a feature, it's a way to humanize DAM. So it makes it really approachable, and it's turning that tool, that rigid tool that you think about from the before, but it's turning into something more like a personal success assistant. So
I like that.
Yeah, and it's sort of like instead of hunting for through your folders or typing in keywords, just imagine saying something like, "Hey, show me your top performing product shots from last fall campaign," and there you have it. So you're able
Yeah.
to get all that from a
And I
conversation.
think when it's connected to systems, I think the other thing people tend to think of when they think of DAM, but yes, they think about it like file storage and it's fancier and maybe it's a prettier interface or you can make a portal from it, right? Like that's very like DAM 1.0, it kind of feels like. But I think
Hmm.
also when people think about what you want to search for, or when you say, get me the most successful, they mistake that for get me the most used. And if you're still in
Hmm.
DAM 1.0 mode, you're just looking about how many times it was used, different places it was used, maybe who was in it. I think when you can connect it to that larger event system, that larger analytic system, when you think about the connection between asset and data, you can actually see from a performance point of view, hey, what was the most successful? What has been consistently successful over time in creating better relationships with our customers through these assets that we value in DAM, as opposed to these assets that we're hiding in DAM? Like it always feels
Hmm.
like if we're just sorting them and storing them, we can hide them a little bit too. But what you just said of show me the best performing, even that has taken on new nuance with AI.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's not it isn't that DAM isn't the content in DAM isn't reusable, but it's because it's hard to find, right? And
Yes.
like I said, like AI kind of changes all of that. Like the way that we see DAM before drastically changed, and even in months, it's kind of crazy right
Dare I
now.
say, damn, right?
Damn, it's damn,
Hmm.
right? So it's enabling like to have that type of level of conversation with DAM. It's enabling teams to sort of find more of that like needle in a haystack. It's to get
Yeah.
inspired, it's to reuse, it's to scale, and it's to activate. So all these things are things that we want to do, right? But it's not necessarily like having to get there is really actually difficult. But the way that
Yeah.
things are changing now, it's actually making it things a little bit easier.
And it's allowing individuals to search and explore and find,
Oh yeah.
as opposed to like, get me something that's relevant and resonant to this market. With AI and DAM today, you can get this down to help me find what Shelly digs,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's
which is
it's
a
it's like
completely new convo.
yeah, it's definitely a flip. So it just becomes even more possible to reuse.
Wow.
So and it's we're talking about like not just for marketing, but we're talking about enabling teams like outside of marketing, like sales,
Yes.
product, regional teams. That is really where scale lives, is to be able
Yes.
to branch the way that people get content in the hands of these people. That's where the scaling actually does happen.
Who do you think in that kind of ecosystem, with the organizations that you work with, do you tend to find that like there are some, like when it comes down to the strategy of who should be connected to DAM, who should be involved in all of this, do you find that certain people get left out? Like, because I think a lot of times people are like, oh yeah, of course we should have sales connected to this so that sellers can, but then we forget service or we forget channel or we forget, like you forget, like I think it's easy to be like, oh, our agency partners should be in on this
Oh
action.
yeah, yeah,
So who
definitely.
gets left out?
I mean, I do feel like the external partners
Yeah,
do get left out. And they're actually the most important too, because they're helping with a lot of the creative processes, right?
absolutely.
So I think other teams like, you know, beyond that, like HR, for example, like they need to
Oh, good
use this
one.
content too.
Yes, I love that.
And yeah, and they need to be able to use some of this content for engagement, right? Like employee engagement or for
Absolutely.
recruiting. Like that's another thing. It's to get their brand out there.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
love
think
that.
those are certain areas where these are the people that actually do need DAM, and then it's hard to get.
Yeah.
It's like it's sort of like content in DAM is sort of like in this locked secret box.
Yes.
Like there's some
Oh
sort of
my God. It's
treasure of content in
right.
there, and you
Right.
need to
But we
search
don't have
deep.
time. Like, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Like if you're your average like marketer, like let's say you're a marketing director of like a B2C organization, girl, we do not have the time to go on that treasure hunt
No,
every day of the week. Like we'd be treasure hunting for hours, right? So
absolutely.
exactly what you said, like just being able to discover the thing that
Hmm.
so I always think back to my time in skincare where it was like lots of folders with lots of little bottles and all the bottles are the same color. And the only, honestly,
Hmm.
when I would look through my systems and I would look for an asset that I needed, the way I would know looking at the little that something was a different was like it was a slightly different color, which I know I should not have been okay with. But it was like the only way I could find the needle in the haystack was the
Yeah.
bottle was a slightly different color. Um, so I always think of that. And I always think of all the different things that I wished I could do if I had more time, more resources, more people and production and da 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 da. I
Hmm.
think a lot of people forget that DAM can serve as that. I think a lot of people want to think of DAM as something that can be at the start of the act of creation, but I actually
Hmm.
think it's most powerful when you start to look at it at the end, right? Like how do I find the needle in the haystack? But how do I make sure that that haystack is in the winter and not in the summer when the original asset was shot in summer, right? Like, how
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
I contextualize because of DAM as opposed to like, how do I have to figure it all out? So when you think of when we start to think of that strategy of are we missing people that should be connected to DAM? Are we missing things that we should be doing in DAM that we're doing someplace else? Does something pop to mind?
Um, I think uh I think another thing is like maybe the regional aspect of it too. So
Yes.
when you're thinking about like not just changing the summer, I'm thinking like even like the way that you look for content from a multilingual sort of aspect is important.
Yes.
So what if you're able to even like search through your language, right? Or what if
Yeah.
you're like bilingual, like I'm bilingual, so I sort of like have a mix
Well, now
of
you're
like two
showing
different
off,
languages,
Shelly.
right?
Yeah.
So and I speak like I speak like broken broken Chinese or whatever
Oh
it's
yeah, like
called.
my
Like so
Spanglish
that's
is excellent. Like my
yeah.
broken span. I can search for some things, but
Hmm.
to be able, like I think with AI and especially generative AI and large language models that are put to this task,
Hmm.
if I can ask in English, I'm asking in 2 seconds versus like, yo, Kiera, like I'm
Yeah,
not doing
yeah,
that.
exactly. It just becomes no language barrier at that
Yeah,
point, right?
yeah,
So Dan can understand you regardless of your language.
right, right.
So those are the types of things that I feel like is so helpful when it comes to like regional aspects to it because they are the ones that are doing the reusing. They're the ones that are saying
Yes.
like, "Hey, I'm in the Swiss Alps and I want like cold mountain," or "I'm in
Right.
the Bahamas and I'm with flamingos and beaches and things like that."
Right. Like
So
I don't just want a palm tree, I want a specific palm. And I
yeah.
think that that becomes so interesting not just for globalization, but for the opposite which is happening today, which is that hyper regionalization. I
Hmm.
don't just want a beach. I want a beach in Florida. Like I
Yes.
want a beach in California. And if you're Californian, you know what I mean, that there is a difference, right? So I want that difference, right? I want
Yeah.
to be able to say, I want farmers who are with a certain crop. And I think that when you look to that really wonderful combination of the data that can come in about your audience, about your customer, that rich segmentation, the analytics, so you know what works best, you know what type of recontextualization you need to do, and a DAM that can really help you with that regionalization along with that localization and the globalization.
Hmm.
That's when it becomes a little bit more of a Swiss Army knife. Like that's when it becomes that multi-purpose tool.
Yeah.
And for people watching out for their budget, which so many teams are so hypersensitive right now about budget and really wanting to be mindful of how they are spending. Suddenly DAM becomes a really important conversation to ask, are we using DAM to its fullest capabilities and to its fullest strategy? Right? I don't
Yeah.
think enough people are having that conversation.
Yeah, because I mean, think about, I always talk about this, that do you really want to spend another cycle of like a creative cycle to do this all over again for like just a change,
Right.
or like a simple change? Or is this something that you can even like, it's another thing is to keep it like like the time short, so it inspires you. Like
Yes.
think of the content not just to reuse, but it's to spark that sort of imagination of what is
Yeah.
possible. And that actually is the like that time to think about, like, to ideal for the idealization of that part is just so, it takes so much time, right?
So agree with you. That's the resource. It's I think it's funny. I don't know about what you do. Like I tend to think when we especially those of us in like creative or in marketing, when we talk about
Hmm.
resources, it's really super easy to talk about budget. It's not as easy for us to admit that part of the reason we are under this pressure is that we don't have that time. We don't have the
Hmm.
headspace to be
Yeah.
able to do what we want to do. Because quite frankly, we're doing the production stuff. We're like resizing for every,
Hmm.
advertising banner size no demand, right?
Yeah.
We're knocking out backgrounds and putting up backgrounds based on which audience responds to which type of background the best. And that takes up that strategic thinking
It
space.
does. It does. I mean, your mind is like, I mean, my mind is like, I have this much right now to
Right.
think about, and I don't have
Exactly.
a lot of time. I need to like divvy it out here. So
I love it.
anything helps. Any sort of
Yeah.
inspiration helps, right? So that kind of gets you over that hurdle or that hump.
Yes.
It's like the writer's block, right? You got maybe idea block. I don't know,
Right,
something
idea
like
block. We're like, I don't know if we call it asset block. I'm not sure if we're like idea
that.
block. I like that. I mean, I have
Yeah.
it all the time. Believe me, I can't tell you how many elephant things I have in my office to be like, remove writer's block, please. It's supposed to do. Ganesh is supposed to do the trick. Let me ask you this, and I want to kind of close out with something that's super tangible for folks who are watching, because I think as we're going into planning, as we're going into the second half of our year,
Mhm.
and especially as we're looking forward into a year that, like, if this year has kind of been about like uncertainty, what are we going to do, where are things going to land, next year we're going to be expected to be off to the races. Like, hey, AI is here, we have all
Yeah.
these tools, we've got to run. That also means that we've got to have our thinking in check, right? We've got to have our
Mhm.
strategies in check. Are there a couple things that you have seen from your experience that you would say, hey, anyone looking at DAM or anyone with assets, anyone with
Mhm.
assets in your
Yeah, yeah.
organization, here are a couple things that you should really ask yourself or maybe even rethink when it comes to really moving into a place where DAM is a strategy, not just a thing you bought.
Yeah, I think it's really like, use it as a strategic tool, right? It's a living system. It's one that
Mhm.
learns, it adopts, it adapts, it grows with your business.
At
And
least
use
it
it as
should.
a,
Like, if it
yeah.
doesn't, don't.
Hmm.
That's not a damn. Like I'm just gonna be super
Exactly.
honest. Like, I know you can't say that. I'm gonna say it. If it doesn't do those things, it's not a modern dam, and you're gonna want to ask some questions.
Yeah, and it has to be your, it becomes your content intelligent engine, right? It
Oh,
takes
I like
action
that.
on your
Yeah.
content. So it has to take action on your content. It has to support your team's creativity, and it keeps you brand consistent, and it reflects the efficacy of your brand. And this is
Yes.
what really helps your story scale. So I really want to take those couple elements of these are must-haves in
Yeah.
today's world, right? The way that we have to move faster, the way that we have to embrace AI is another thing, in order to
Yeah.
move faster, right?
Yeah. And I think that I can't emphasize enough, and I love that you brought this up, that damn is not the realm of marketing. Damn does not start and stop with creative agency marketing. Damn is an organizational asset tool. It's that should be that strategy. So if that means everyone in service has connection, if that means that all of your resellers, like if you like think through, like I always tell people when they're asking me about damn, I'm like, think through the worst person who has done the worst thing to your logo.
That's
that
a really
person
good
should
one.
be connected
Yeah.
to damn, right? Like, don't think
That
about the
is-
best case scenario. Like, I want you to think about the worst. Like, I want you to think about that person who took like your brochure and cut it out and then took a picture of your logo and then used it. Is that person connected to damn? Because people resort to silliness because they have no other option.
Yeah. I've totally seen it all in marketing. I'm actually picturing the image right now for myself, and it's horrendous.
Like it's, and you know what it is like. Okay, we're gonna talk about the dirty secret. It's anyone who's gone ahead and right clicked on a mouse, and then used the logo with the checkered background in.
Oh my God, no.
You know what I'm talking about, right? But that's what happens. It happens. But I think what people do then is then stop there because they're like, oh, brand police. Great. I can use this as a fun tool for brand police. No, I think, Shelly, you put it perfectly. It's a strategic tool, right? It's a strategic tool about leveraging what we've already invested in these assets and all of that time and all of that thinking and all of that brand love and turning it into something that is reusable and scalable and actionable. That's really what damn brings to the table.
Yeah. Damn.
Damn, girl. Yes. Okay. We could do that all day long.
I know.
Trust me, everyone, Shelly and I can. We will totally do that all. Shelly, thank you so much for joining me on this.
Thank you for having me.
I've had so much fun. And listen, everyone, strategy, think of it. Creative space, giving your mind some time to have that next big creative vision. These are the things that we need to be asking when we're talking about damn. It's not just about the storage. It's not just about the files. It's about being able to meet our business goals thanks to the assets we've already invested in and created. Shelly, I'll see you again out there, my friend. Thank you so much for joining me. Until next time, everyone.